Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to the final episode of Grigorii Rasputin series of lectures. We have a couple minutes really before we should begin. Hi, Elizabeth. Many of you know that, that I'm currently living in Israel. And many of you know that there's currently, we are in the state of war at the moment. I'm safe at home. We have a safe room. And the safe room is just, the room next to next to where I am. I'm saying this because we might have sirens any minute. I have my phone here. I have all the apps that I need. And I'm just saying this because this tour might get interrupted because once siren goes off, I'll switch the camera and take my laptop and go to the safe room. And once the sirens are died down and it's safe to go out, hopefully just in a couple of minutes, I'll be able to resume the tour. I'm just saying this, in case it happens, please wait for me at least for some minutes and I'll be back. This is basically it. For some reason also, I haven't been able to do this live stream on the World Virtual Tours YouTube channel. But hopefully there will be the recording available for everyone. And I hope that eventually the tour will come out all right. And you will find the lecture interesting and, definitely leaving you with some food for thought about Grigorii Rasputin, not about my whereabouts. Thank you so much for all the support. So I'm saying this because, I want you to know about the changes of the flow of the lecture, possible changes. Thank you so much, everyone. Also here, the very first message that I shared on the chat, you can look through it, is basically the links where you can check out my entire schedule for, there will be more tours added, like every week we try to add more tours. And also the last link is where you can find the recordings of the previous 3 episodes. They are available to watch. They're going to be available for a limited time. I can't say really how long, but if you missed the previous 3 lectures, you can still catch up with all of them. Thank you so much for the kind words. So let's not waste time. It's really precious. So I will be turning off the chat for the time being, and let me very quickly do the recap. So we finished last time already at the moment when Grigorii Rasputin was, there was an attempt to poison him with allegedly with arsenic that was added in large quantity, in large amount, in the pastries or eclairs, hard to say, because in different memoirs there are many details differ, and of course because of these differences, it all gets pretty much suspicious and unsettling. But the poison wouldn't work. So Felix Usupov would go upstairs to the room where all the other plotters were waiting for him. And he returns with a gun, and he shoots Rasputin in the side. Rasputin falls down. And Usupov thinks the job is done. He goes up, he has a drink, and then something crosses his mind that he actually didn't check if Rasputin had been killed. As he was going down and he approached the body, and then Rasputin opened his eyes. And he must have been bleeding profusely, to the side. It could be the liver or something. He said, "Felix, you will pay for it." And then Rasputin manages to rise, and he rushes, a little bit upstairs. And now I'll start sharing the screen. Just a second. I'll try to concentrate on the tour as much as possible. So thank you so much for joining this tour. It definitely helps me remain, sane in the whole situation. So this is exactly the door from the bachelor's apartment of Felix Yusupov, through which Rasputin, bleeding profusely from the side, managed to run away to the courtyard. It was winter, and we have the photographs from the forensic reports about what the area looked like at that time. This is where we stopped last time, and I would like to quickly remind you that. So over here we can see the blood spatter actually drops. It looks like someone's really walking pretty straight, and well, just the blood would be dripping quite intensively. This is exactly, over here is the door. So like the building is the same, the backyard is the same, the courtyard is the same. Right now, this is the courtyard of the kindergarten, and I'm always, just wondering, like, how come, a kindergarten on the spot where a horrible murder had happened. Well, but that's how it goes. And also there were really like traces of blood on the step, and the step is still the same. Can you imagine? So maybe it's the steps is one of the things that also remain the same, and it could be considered some memorabilia, I don't know, like some item like pretty important. So there you go, just for you to see. This is from here you cannot see the blood spatter, but you can see the same door. This is the palace, and this is just one of the buildings, and the building is still there as well. This is exactly where the kindergarten is now. It's just the general view, just for us to understand like where we are exactly on the same very spot. And over here, so somebody asked me, how is it possible that nobody heard any noises, any screams? So what happened once Rasputin, so now, like, okay, so there are two versions. So basically what happened, so when Yusupov realized that he hadn't actually killed him, the other person who was there in the room, Purishkevich, the member of the Duma, he came to help. And Purishkevich claims that he managed to run from the same very door and shoot Rasputin actually at the point blank. This is not the word. Sorry, it's so hard to concentrate. Just a minute. So he managed to shoot Rasputin from afar. Sorry, what am I saying? From afar, and he made 2 gunshots. And then Rasputin fell. So far everything matches, and here we also can hardly see anything. But the question is, how is it possible that one gunshot was made like from in the palace, but then the 2 gunshots were made outside, and we know at that time there was a curfew in the streets of St. Petersburg, Petrograd, because the First World War, and because of the there was no war in the streets of St. Petersburg, but there were a lot of unrests at that time already. So the pre-revolutionary events, and the First World War will be one of the prerequisites for the revolution further on. And death of Rasputin also. And actually there were witnesses. So there was always a policeman, just on duty here and there everywhere. And he definitely heard something, but he would reach the area already later, before the policeman came. The plotters managed to put the body of Rasputin into the car, really shovel the body into the car, allegedly dead body, and into the car of Dmitry Pavlovich Romanov, right? So one of the plotters, and they drove away. So when the police came, there actually hadn't been anyone, but it was in a hurry. And then, well, they made several mistakes. We will talk about them later. So, but this is just for us to understand what was going on. And yes, they were hurt. Yes, they were. Well, there was a police office just across the Moika River. The Moika River is there. So you can see the continuation of the blood spatter. I think you can clearly see this, right? So those are exactly the blood drops. Another photograph. So actually, this is like the whole scene together. Pretty long way, for a person. Okay, so now it's going to be sensitive content. All those of you who don't want to see the dead body of Rasputin, please turn away. I will let you know where to look, when you can look, but I will be explaining a few things. But as I'm saying, the photos of dead Rasputin, of the Rasputin's body, are available online. Just once you just Google it, Rasputin body, and then you will see it. So it's like all over the internet. So I'm not really violating any rules here. So there you go. This is just one image. And so what happened to the body? They drew to the outskirts of St. Petersburg, to the place where I like to hang out, to the place where next to the water, where they had a yacht club, and they just threw the body of Rasputin. They were in such a hurry that they forgot to tie any sort of a weight, anything, any stone that would keep the body on the bottom, because the dead bodies would eventually come up to the surface and they would be floating in the water. They couldn't think about it because it didn't go according to the plan, like completely. They didn't see that they actually left one shoe of Rasputin in their car. And later on, it would be found, of course, by the police. So it wouldn't be difficult for the police at all to put two and two together. Just a few more minutes and we're done. So you see here is gunshot probably done by Usupov, sorry. And over here, you see one more bullet that nobody ever spoke about. Point blank, right? So it's just exactly it's just a close range, very, very just exactly in the forehead. And nobody mentioned this wound, this gunshot, obviously lethal, absolutely. And none of the people that published or shared their memoirs, and now you can look back, those who prefer not to look at the sensitive content. So we are back. So nobody would mention this. And many years later, with the help of BBC and the archives of British Secret Services, a name of a person named Oswald Rayner would come up. Oswald Rayner just happened to be in Petrograd exactly at this time, just around those days. He arrived some time earlier, and it wasn't just him. It was also a person, Stephen Alley. He also was with, of course, with the British Secret Services. Is the man who did take part in like a lot of like military things. So he was a very good specialist, in like everything about the army, everything. And there was one more person, Lieutenant Colonel John Scale. This by the way, the only photograph that one can really easily find. And so all these three people arrived in Petrograd at approximately the same time and left approximately the same time. And we know that Oswald Rayner was a friend I'm sorry, there's some sirens in the area, but not in my area, so I just need to stay updated. And we know that Oswald Rayner indeed knew Felix Usupov, and there's definitely something to it. In the archives of British Secret Service, MI5, I think at that time it was called. This is what you can read. On 7th January 1917, and 7th January, it's the new style, and the old style would be exactly the 13 days earlier. Stephen Alley wrote to John Scale in Romania. So by that time, everybody already managed to flee from Petrograd, really, in just the next day. Although matters have not proceeded entirely to plan, our objective has clearly been achieved. Reaction to the demise of dark forces. This was, well, we know that now that it was the code name for Rasputin, has been well received by all, although a few awkward questions have already been asked about wider involvement. Rainer is attending to loose ends and will no doubt brief you on your return. Interesting, right? So we know for sure that the dark forces and the demise of dark forces is exactly refers to Rasputin. Exactly. This we know this for sure. So what happened next? So the next morning, everybody was looking for Rasputin. His daughter was looking for him. He was missing. And of course, by that time, Rasputin had been under surveillance of Tsar's police because Nicholas was just afraid for Rasputin's life. And he was under surveillance. So everybody was looking for him. And shortly after, just the same very day, Rasputin's body was found in St. Petersburg. And this was, of course, the most shattering news for the Empress, for the Emperor. And Nicholas called George Buchanan and asked. George Buchanan was the British ambassador in the Russian Empire at that time. He witnessed all the revolutionary events, like he was there, and he asked George Buchanan if he knew about everything. He said, no, absolutely not. So, but of course, it's just absolutely impossible that the British ambassador was not aware of the operation, because we know that all these people, well, at least, John Scale and Oswald Rayner stayed in the hotel, actually exactly where the British Secret Services were quartered, just next to St. Isaac's Cathedral in St. Petersburg. And what I'm showing you now is the footage of the area. It's right now is, by the way, part of St. Petersburg, and back then it was like it was the area called Ostrava, like the islands. This is where, like, it's already the suburbs, like countryside, where the rich aristocracy like to hang out, like it's sort of a yacht club, and this is where these not very clever, maybe, plotters would prefer to get rid of the body, just dispose of the body, because they knew that area very well and they could find their way in the dark. So this is it. And for the police, everything would be just way too simple. So basically, by the end of the same day, it would be known to Nicholas II. This is what the area looks like now. But we know that's the place. That's exactly the place. And the body would come up just, well, almost in the same area. Just they didn't really need to look like for long for the body to come up. And okay, sorry. What did Nicholas do? He put everyone under home arrest. And he said that nobody is allowed to take somebody else's life. And he wanted everyone involved to be punished. Okay, before I continue, let me check something, okay? Just some technical side of things. I'll be quick. I'm here. And we're going to have a Q&A shortly, I promise. Yeah, okay, very good. So this is exactly what I've been looking for. It's good. There's going to be another another patch of sensitive content. So please turn away right now, and I will let you know when you can look back. So I'll be showing again the dead body of Rasputin, but the way it was pulled on ice, of course, frozen, rigid, rigor mortis. And so there were all the wounds there, the wound to the side and the wound to the head. So we are back to the city. This is okay. So no more dead bodies. We are back, and we are back to the palace on the Nevsky Avenue. This is where Dmitry Pavlovich lived with his sister Maria, exactly in this palace. And it is believed that exactly in this palace, this idea and this entire plot to get rid of Rasputin had been cooked up. So this palace originally belonged to the Romanov royal family, to the sister of Alexandra Fedorovna, Elizabeth, also granddaughter of Queen Victoria. They were sisters, and she was married to Grand Duke Sergei Alexandrovich, uncle to Nicholas II. And so Dmitry Pavlovich was sort of and Maria, so both kids were adopted by these people. Here they are, Dmitry Pavlovich in his younger age and Maria Pavlovna. So here they are. They were like children, you know, to Elizabeth and to Sergei Alexandrovich. But Elizabeth and Sergei Alexandrovich would have to leave for Moscow. Sergei Alexandrovich was appointed Governor General of Moscow, and the palace just stayed with Dmitry Pavlovich and Maria Pavlovna. It is believed that, well, one of the reasons why Dmitry Pavlovich would want to participate in this crime is that like he disliked Rasputin as well, just like Usupov. Dmitry Pavlovich actually almost settled the wedding with the eldest daughter of Nicholas II, Olga. But well, some people say that Rasputin would talk Olga out of it because he said he told Alexandra Fedorovna's mother that Dmitry Pavlovich wasn't really, you know, pure, and well, he could have been in some sexual relations with another man, and it could easily have been Felix Usupov, but we cannot prove it. We cannot say anything here, but of course, it would be something horrible, you know, for the royal family to even to think of. So of course the wedding would be called off. Well, it wasn't even like a wedding, but they almost arranged it. So Usupov, he came from a very rich family. Zinaida Usupova, it was the, you know, she was sort of the uncrowned queen of St. Petersburg society. And so this is the photo of the entire family. And in the Usupov family, so actually there were two brothers, but the elder brother died, and Felix Usupov, the younger one, would be, well, the last hope and the last chance and the apple of his parents' eye. And he was spoiled, like absolutely spoiled. As I said, he studied in Oxford, and it looks like this is exactly where him and Oswald Rayner met. Some say also, it's hard to prove it, but they might have had an affair back in England. We don't know, but we do know that they kept in touch. We do know that we do know that Yusupov knew about Rayner visiting Petrograd, and there's like memo available. And so it's sort of, you know, some more dots are getting connected. So Sergei Sukhatin, the lieutenant, the one of the people who was there, we don't know exactly like why he actually ended up in Yusupov Palace, but he was friends with Dmitry Pavlovich. And by the way, this is his car. metallurgique. I thought I pronounced it right. This is exactly the car that picked Rasputin. Usupov picked him, and this is where the shoe of Rasputin stayed. Dmitry Pavlovich. So they believed to have been friends with Dmitry Pavlovich, Lieutenant Sukhatin, and Dmitry Pavlovich. Who else was actually interested in the demise of the Dark Force? So the so-called royal opposition, so Grand Ducal opposition. So by that time, by 1916, the entire royal family basically lost any influence over Nicholas II and all his decisions. It was only Nicholas, the Empress, and Rasputin who would basically making all the decisions eventually regarding like everything about politics, well, lots of things, but of course mostly politics. And well, they needed to restore their influence, the control over the family, but they didn't know that Rasputin was essential, absolutely essential, and the royal family basically had no hope without Rasputin. So all these grand dukes, all those relatives, uncles and cousins of Nicholas II, well, they would also, they would actually be the ones who would protect, who would come to Nicholas II and try to protect, try to fence out all the plotters. So Dmitry Pavlovich, the closest member of the family, Usupov, also friend of the family, married to a relative to Nicholas II, to his niece, Irina. Well, it was something absolutely unheard of. And eventually, well, nobody would actually be punished. Like, nobody will be punished. The punishment that Nicholas II actually chose for everyone involved in the plot, well, now seems to us absolutely ridiculous, and it actually saved, it actually saved everyone who participated in it. I will mention it shortly. So what did the royal opposition come up with? So they would be, pushing Nicholas II. Well, after the murder, and well, just really, it was already like the end of December and January, already early January, which means that they actually didn't know, but in a bit over, well, in less than 2 months, the first revolution would actually take place. And they were thinking, let's say, okay, so if Nicholas abdicated, so what would they be doing? And they already even have candidates, the next candidates for the throne. It could be Grand Duke Andrei Vladimirovich. He was first cousin to Nicholas II, so he was related by blood, and he was one of the most immediate, relatives. There was also Grand Duke Kirill Vladimirovich, and by the way, Kirill Vladimirovich would escape, and Kirill Vladimirovich would even proclaim himself the king in exile, emperor in exile. He would call himself Kirill I. Just a few years ago in St. Petersburg was held a huge pompous wedding of one of the Romanovs currently living, Grand Duke George Romanov and Rebecca Beccarini. I think it was all over the news, and it was well, it was, I would say, a very important event because the Romanovs sort of returned, they returned to their homeland in a way, not to rule, but to still, well, use one of the main churches for the wedding ceremony. There was one more Grand Duke, Nicholas Nikolaevich Jr., and you know what they say, that Nicholas would be one of those people who would actually, there was one revolution that took place in 1905. It was called Bloody Sunday, and he came to the office of Nicholas and said, "I'm gonna kill myself if you're not gonna, if you're not going to make concessions, if you're not going to establish a Duma, a parliament," because up until 1906, there was any political body that would restrict and control the body, the power of the monarch. So it was absolute monarchy. So what happened to all those people? So Dmitry Pavlovich was sent to Persian front. which saved him, because when he was already in the Persian front line, the revolution started, and he had no way, of course, he couldn't return, but he was spared, because otherwise he would have been for sure executed, just like many other Grand Dukes of Romanovs. They were executed and buried. Well, we're not even sure where they were buried. Some would die in Siberia, in the well, in an old mine. Some people would be, well, like the family of Nicholas II, they would be all executed, and then, you know, they would dispose of the bodies. Dmitry Pavlovich eventually would make it to Paris after, well, the Persian front line, and he would become friends, and he would become a boyfriend, a lover of Coco Chanel. And he would introduce Coco Chanel to a perfumer from St. Petersburg, who would create for her Chanel No. 5. They would date for 1 year, and if you watch the film about Coco Chanel, then it's there. And Coco Chanel, exactly at that, while they were dating, she created well, some of her like old-timers, a fantastic Art Deco style collection of clothing with a lot of like Russian motifs in it. This is Coco Chanel and Dmitry Pavlovich in Paris. So the murderer got away with it. Classic. Then, so more photographs. Here they are. So this is the young Dmitry Pavlovich, and this is Dmitry Pavlovich and Coco Chanel. They would actually, you know, stay in touch. And it's also the sister of Dmitry Pavlovich. She would also escape. She would live together. Well, they would live together in one city, Maria Pavlovna. So she was very good in like knitting and all sorts of handicrafts. And you know what? She was very good in embroidery, and she opened her own embroidery like workshop called Kitmir. And well, it's just, well, fantastic how it works, because exactly the Kitmir workshop would create some of the fantastic designs, the old-timer designs for Chanel in 1923. It's just like, who would have known like how everything actually had been connected, right? Wait, that's not all, but let's have a Q&A. And don't worry, I will be mentioning a lot more of the aftermath and like why we actually think that Oswald Reiner and all those people had been involved, and why they okay, could have been involved. Okay, let's put it this way, because you can never really say. But that memo definitely speaks for itself. And there is, by the way, there is a BBC documentary available on YouTube to watch. It was filmed in St. Petersburg by BBC, and it tells exactly that story. Well, of course, I did a lot more like information just for us to well, to be on the same page, but in general, well, like it's not just a version like that, you know, some fanatics came up with. Definitely not. Diane, no, unfortunately, I cannot fit all those 100 people on in my safe room. But I mean, had you been here, of course, and had you been in danger, I would find time I would find place for everyone. But the safe room is really small. Luckily, we have, you know, air conditioning there. We have some supplies of food and water. And as I'm saying this, I just cannot believe. I just cannot believe it. But you know, just for this half an hour, I've, you know, I really, you know, managed to just, well, for a short while, okay, it's not like just for an entire half an hour, I managed to get my mind off it. Okay, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions about Rasputin and everything. Per Wikipedia, Rasputin and Empress. I will talk about the MGM film, okay? I will talk about it. It's important, and I will talk about it, okay? I don't want to mention it too early. Thank you, Ashraf. Thank you for joining, as well. Which means it's the patronymic name. For example, I am Anna Andreevna. It's a patronymic name. Andrei is the name of my father. My husband Misha, he is Michael Borisovich. Borisovich is a patronymic name after his late father Boris. Thank you, Dominic. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Why was it inconceivable to the Tsar that his oldest daughter to inherit? Good question, but there was a law bill that only male representatives of the royal family could rule. Of course, the emperor had he had this unlimited power. Well, by that time he already had the parliament, but he could play around it. One can always find a loophole. Like, you see, Putin is doing whatever he wants, like, and nobody says anything like against it, right? So, well, they wanted to transfer the power to the boy. Well, after the boy had been born, and like they had this hope that he would actually live long, because there was Rasputin, but once Rasputin was gone, their hope was gone. And that's one of the reasons why Nicholas would, that's relatively but still easily, abdicate in early March 1917. That's one of the reasons, because there was no hope. And he would abdicate also in favor of his son, because the doctor said that his son would not make it, up until the 18 years of age. Yes, he had his head on. He had all the body parts on. Yes, absolutely. I will talk about the autopsy. I will talk about the bullet, and this bullet in the forehead. Where did it come from? So later on, part of the autopsy report actually will be missing. But what we know is that that bullet that was extracted from the head, it actually didn't match any bullets that were circulating in Russia. It didn't belong to Russian army. It just wasn't made in Russia. It wasn't used in Russia. And it was the bullet, very likely, so it was very similar to the bullets used in England, because the similar bullets were found in the guns of the British soldiers. And just, this is exactly, one of those things, one of those points, in favor of this theory that Oswald Reiner had been there and involved. And well, according to that memo, we know that he was there, like, staying for a little longer to, just to end things up, settle things down, and then, well, attending the ends, right? Loose ends. So it is believed that he was exactly, because like, he was in touch with Usupov, and it looks like he could have actually, it is believed that he could speak Russian. It's like not really known for 100%, but this could really happen. Okay, so let's move on. Hold on a second. I need to check the phone. Okay. So, okay, so this is about Coco Chanel. This is about Dmitry Pavlovich. Just some more sketches there. Like, that collection was extremely popular, and the world, well, it was just a few years ago that the Russian Revolution happened, and of course, like, the world was shaken by this. So what happened to Yusupov? Usupov family, the entire family, was sent away into exile to their manor in Crimea. And at that time, in the south, it was part of the Russian Empire. At that time, Crimea was part of the Russian Empire. What can I say? And that saved them from everything, because by that time the revolution really didn't get to the south. And very easily, from Crimea, well, actually from Odessa port on a cruiser ship, Marlborough, that had been sent, to save, the aristocracy, some of the Romanovs, not the family of Nicholas II, as we know. They were saved. Well, this is Usupov and Irina on board of the Marlborough cruise ship. They would eventually end up in Europe. They would live in Paris. They had some money, but of course they like to live, the big way. And then this is when this film of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer would just be released very, very, really on time. It was so Felix Yusupov and Irina were, of course, portrayed, were there. They were characters. I mean, they were characters, impersonating Felix Yusupov and Irina. And in that movie, the character of Rasputin is like, it's actually shown as if he had actually had sexual intercourse with Irina. And Yusupov filed a lawsuit against Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer for lies, basically, because, well, they were humiliated, and it was lies, and all these things. And exactly after that, because they won the lawsuit, they won loads of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And exactly after that, the entire film industry in the world would be adding this caption about the events and characters of all the things depicted on this photoplay are fictitious, and the similarity to actual persons, living or dead, or to actual firms is purely coincidental. We see it before every film, right? And we have no idea that it all started with Rasputin, with a peasant from Siberia, and like all these things. It's absolutely interesting. Like, it's like really hard to wrap your mind around it, but this is true. Vladimir Purishkevich, so we know that he released memoirs, and his memoirs would be different from Yusupov. Like the number of people in that room upstairs, right? There clearly must have been someone else, and we believe that sixth person was actually Oswald Rayner, and the two women. So the two the two people laughing, pretending to be Irina, being the women's voices. Well, we believe that those were like two women related to Dmitry Pavlovich. And of course, that those memoirs of Purishkevich, they, on the one hand, they shed light on the events of that night. On the other hand, they were really confusing, and also there is nothing indicating nothing really indicating that bullet in the forehead, like point blank shooting. Sergei Sukhatin, so the army Lieutenant Sergei Sukhatin, he actually there was really nothing special about him. He lived just for a few more years in Moscow. There's just one photo of him found online, just like that. So, and then he just disappears. We know nothing about him. So he could have just been, like a friend who would be helping, but we don't know really what was there for him, that he was risking like his life, his freedom. We don't know. Stanislaus Lazavert, so that doctor who allegedly brought arsenic, now we're not sure that actually there had been any arsenic, or it could have been, but it was neutralized, by the by the sugar in the pastry. It's hard to say. So, but he actually ended up in France. And he was given a good position in the army, related to the army, like medicine related to the army. And that was it. So nobody really served time in jail. So the person who actually suffered was Rasputin. So first, Rasputin's body was buried. It was done, well, at that time, Nicholas was still the emperor, so the friend of Rasputin, Anna Vyrubova, through whom, the royal family would be renting the apartment to Rasputin. So she said that Rasputin would be buried on her, like on her land. She was in charge of construction of like a church town in not far from Alexander Palace, where the royal family used to live. And there was a cross, and they were like the number of people coming to part with Rasputin would be never ending, and it became like an important pilgrimage site as well. So that's a little bit of a logic and the timeline of the events of those days. So this is exactly Anna Vyrubova for us to remember how she looked like. And of course, everybody would be devastated, and very few people actually very few people knew how devastating it would be for the entire country. But anyway, right now there is a place, like alleged place. This footage was taken several years ago, but I don't think really much has changed. In that, exactly in that area where, well, it's approximately the same area where the body had been buried once. But there is no body now. There's no grave. There is no body of Rasputin anywhere. And you see, so many people indeed want Rasputin, indeed want to proclaim Rasputin a saint. But he was not a monk, and he was not a saint, and the Russian church would never recognize him as such. This is for sure. But still, so it says here that exactly on this spot, was placed it was a grave and a memorial stone to pay tribute to Grigorii Rasputin, killed in December 1916. What happened after the revolution? Alexander Kerensky, who was the chairman of the provisional government, and after the revolution, I will go very quickly. I don't have time, and this not really time and place to go into details of those things, of those events. But after the revolution of February Revolution, not October Revolution, there would be like two political bodies formed: the provisional government, representing let's say the former members of the Duma, and sort of aiming at maintaining status quo and maybe even restitution of the monarchy. But there was also the deputy of the officer of the soldiers and workers deputies, who would be representing the working class. So Kerensky was in charge of the provisional government. So he commissioned to exhume the body of Rasputin, and allegedly it was Kerensky, and allegedly, burn it. And one of the people who was asked to do this was Philip Kopczynski. He was a reporter, and he participated in this, exhumation and transportation of the body. And they needed to look for the place to store the body before they would decide like where to burn it. And it was kept in the heart of St. Petersburg. Just the body of Rasputin was kept in the heart of St. Petersburg, in the former horse stables of the Romanovs, just next to Blood Cathedral, just there. And later on, really, like just the next day, the body would be burned in the big furnaces in the Polytechnical Institute of St. Petersburg. The place still exists, the furnaces still exist, and it is believed that, so this is the way they got rid of the body. And there's even a report about it. There's not really much, to translate, but it basically says that this is the report on like how the body was, how they disposed of the body. Why? Okay, so let's talk about Bonnie M, and then I will just one more thing, just to draw the, I would say make some conclusions and draw the borderline here. Bonnie M singer Bobby Farrell, you see, died in St. Petersburg. at the age of 61. And he had performed the Rasputin song, and he died on the same day Rasputin died, December 30, but different year. So the end of December, and he died from a heart attack. He was just 61, but he died from a heart attack. And you know that in that visit, he also went to see the Museum of Rasputin, like where he was born, like his hometown. And this is something really vicious. So it was a big deal. It was a big scandal, and many people found that there was something really ominous about it. There's one more thing I want to share with you, but I want to make sure I can actually share. So I want to do something. Hold on a second. So I hope you can hear it. You should be able to hear it. This is Felix Yusupov and Irina Romanov. This interview was taken by the French television. I think it's the end of 60s. And here I will explain, and if you cannot hear, you can always go to YouTube, because this is the video from YouTube, and you can listen to the interview. You can watch to the interview. So the reporter asked Yusupov whether he really regrets, having killed Rasputin, and if he would do it again. And he says he would do it again.
Принадлежите ли вы к русской императорской фамилии? Нет, но моя жена приходится племянницей императора Николая II. Княгиня, знали ли вы о замысле вашего мужа?
Да, я все знала.
It's in French, and then it's dubbed, well, like you can hear Russian translation, but in general, also the reporters also asking whether Irina knew about the plot, and she says yes, so she knew everything.
И вы одобряли его?
Да.
Княгиня, я неоднократно слышал о том, что вы в некотором роде являлись приманкой, которой воспользовался ваш муж для того, чтобы заманить Распутина в тот вечер к себе.
Это совершенно неверно.
Почему?
Потому что меня даже не было дома. Меня не было и в Санкт-Петербурге. Я была в Крыму.
So, and then the reporter's asking whether she was a sort of whether she was there in the palace, and the reason for Rasputin to actually come to Usupov palace. And she said, no, she was not, because she was in Crimea at that time.
Сейчас на склоне вашей жизни, когда вы вспоминаете о Распутине, какие вы испытываете чувства по отношению к нему? Отвращение. Были ли вы лично заинтересованы в убийстве Распутина? Нет. Князь, если бы вы снова оказались в подобных обстоятельствах и должны были бы принять решение, совершили бы вы то же самое? Совершили? Да. Всю вашу жизнь вы отказывались от участия в создании фильма на эту тему. Все предыдущие фильмы о Распутине были сделаны без вашего согласия. И вот в первый раз вы согласились на участие в нашем фильме. В первый раз вы появились перед камерами. Князь Усупов, почему? Потому что в других фильмах не было рассказано правдивой истории. Человек, который только что говорил с вами, человек, который убил Распутина, будет сейчас вспоминать.
So, basically, also the reporter asked whether, let me put the chat on, and so this is time for Q&A. And now, well, before the Q&A, well, you can send in the questions, but I just want to make sure I finish. I really need to say a few more words, like why actually they would need to kill Rasputin. So the reporter also asked, like, what Usupov felt about Rasputin, and he would say he was appalled, he was disgusted by him, and that so he would have done it, he would have done it again. And the reporter also asked whether Usupov actually had any personal interest in killing Rasputin, and he said no. So basically, according to Usupov's memoirs, he was doing it for the country. He was doing it for the future, because the entire royal opposition, the entire Okay, let me go to the top of the chat just to also look for all the links for you. So basically, the entire opposition was thinking that once, Rasputin is dead, all the hardships, all the problems of the royal family would disappear, and the country, like everything, will get back to normal, to exactly how it used to be, how it was nice and comfortable and safe for the royal family, and they could be living like their own lives just exactly the same way. It's wrong. It's very wrong. So this is the link where you can watch all the three previous recordings. But again, as I said, for some reason, I haven't been able to actually live stream to YouTube now. But anyway, I think you'll have access to the recordings a bit later. And maybe it's good that we're not live on YouTube, because I'm not exactly feeling the 100%. So why would the British and probably the French, well, we don't know much about France, but it could be, but the British, so about the British. So it was about the First World War. So Rasputin would beg Nicholas II to withdraw from the front line, from the Eastern Front. And had they done it, had Nicholas II withdrawn from the front line, it would be absolutely catastrophic for the British and for the French, because the armies from the Eastern Front would switch to the Western Front, and then it would have absolutely destroy, the entire offense, the entire plans of the British army, of the French army. So why we believe that the French were also involved is like not me believing, but specialists, historians, the people working at the Usupov Palace as well, like the historians, the researchers, is because, well, they were allies. And Nicholas's withdrawal would have meant disaster for the rest of the coalition. And this is why the Buchanan, the British ambassador, couldn't but know about this, and he must have been involved. He must have assisted the arrival of the three men to deal with the demise of the dark horse, meaning Rasputin. And of that memo pretty much speaks for itself. So everyone around Nicholas and their family were against Rasputin, and they were against them. Very few people actually knew about the disease of the boy. Some did, but most people did not. But they didn't want the boy to rule because the boy was too young. So they were looking for other candidates, and there were many people ready to take over, and get down to ruling the country. So there was also competition. Many things, many things have contributed, and just people in the country were absolutely worn out by the war. People had been dying for nothing. It wasn't even the war, like the Second World War. Okay, it's clear why the people would fight, but in the First World War, well, originally Russia didn't have any agenda at all, but Russia would be really drawn, made to participate, to help defend the Baltic states that had been in the predicament. Thank you, the Stana and Milica for it. So the Montenegrin princesses married to those Grand Dukes who actually had formed the core of the royal opposition. Well, and many things like that. Well, in a nutshell, this is it. So there is no body of Rasputin. There is, but there is no this sort of a mad monk image So that story is about Rasputin having affairs with the daughters of Nicholas II, or with his wife, or all together, or the Empress and Anna Vurubova. It's just the product of imagination of Heliodor, hero monk Heliodor. There is no indication, any indication, in any correspondence between the Romanovs and Rasputin, there had been anything that more than just, friendly affection and just, like family, but really friendly bonds. Was Rasputin a sinner? Yes, and he never really say he was not. He never really said he hadn't had, any sexual intercourse with anyone in the banyas. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. So he was not a saint. He was a sinner, but well, he didn't kill no one. He did help. He did save people. He cured people for free. He gave a lot of money for charity. Well, was he vain? He must have been vain. Otherwise, he wouldn't have. Well, he wouldn't have reached the top, and was he did he have any special powers? According to the memoirs of the people who were around, when Rasputin was, helping the royal family, it looks like he did have some powers, but we do not know how, what, and we're not even sure whether he himself knew exactly how it worked. It looks like he just knew. And it's also in his own words. It's quoted in the book of Rasputin by Douglas Smith. A fantastic book. As I said, this is the book on the basis of which actually this tour is done. Also, of course, the lectures of the Usupov Palace. That is believed to be the #1 research institution about everything, connected with Rasputin. And well, now you know that the murder of a simple peasant from Siberia, how it changed the future of Russia, how it also influenced the future of Hollywood industry, how it changed the world of fashion in a way, and all that. Okay, so the chat is here, finally. Questions are welcome. I should have probably turned the chat earlier, but then I would have lost, all the messages. Is there any connection between British intelligence and the plotters? Yes, as I said, Susie, Usupov, we know for sure that Usupov knew Oswald Reiner. They studied together. They must have, well, they probably dated at that time, Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Ashraf. I'm happy you've enjoyed it. I'm happy you've enjoyed all the 4 episodes. Grigorii Rasputin had water in lungs, which means he was yes, that as well. They did find water in his lungs. Yes. So it looks like he wasn't even he wasn't even which is really, really weird, right? Really weird. Yeah. But this is this information, since the original autopsy report was missing for a long time, and some pages were missing, it's really hard to say whether it's actually true. But yes, there is a version like that. Thank you so much. Thank you. The interview, yes, you can watch it. You can watch it on YouTube. Ripper, let me share the link just once again. So World Virtual Tours exist only thanks to your support. And they split the tips, 50-50. Thank you so much for your wish to support me, to support the project. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Ripper. Okay, hold on a second. Marianne, thank you so much. I'm happy you've learned something new. And well, I'm happy. I'm really grateful I've been able to do this tour. And I didn't have to run, to my safe room. So some news are not really nice ones, but anyway. So yeah. Thank you, Lori. Thank you. Thank you, Linda. It really, really means a lot. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything. Yes, Reaper, it works both ways. This or that. It's just the way you prefer it. Yes. Well, had it been dangerous, like really dangerous, I wouldn't be doing this tour, of course. But well, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your tips. Thank you for support. Thank you for your interest in the subject. Yeah, we're safe so far. Let's hope this is exactly how it's going to be till the end of the whole thing. Yeah, Grigorii, it looks like Russia is doomed. Yeah, in a way, yeah. Could be, could be all this complicated history. A lot of greed, a lot of, hunger for power and control over people and people's minds. Yeah, it's anyway. So this is time to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Ripper, for your support. Thank you, everyone. I hope the recording will be available for everyone to catch up later on. So my next was actually in a couple of days on the 9th of October. It's going to be about Israel, about the city in the north called Acre. Beautiful place. The tour is going to be pre-recorded because it takes me minimum 3 hours to get to Akko, just one way. And I would go to places and make videos, and then I'll be just editing them, adding extra footage, and then I'll be joining live, sharing the screen, and providing my live commentary about everything that we see in Akko. So all my tours can be found on the page of virtualtours.online/Anna, and there you can find a list of tours scheduled for October, and I think November also is partly scheduled. And in the end of October, we're actually heading to the exhibition on the in the Hermitage Museum about the childhood of the last Romanov children. This is it. Thank you, everyone, for your support. Thank you for giving me enough strength, to pull it for this day. And I hope to see you very soon, safe and sound, on October 9th for the next tour. Thank you. Bye-bye.